In the quiet suburbs of Ontario, Canada, residents slept peacefully, trusting in the safety of their community. They trusted their neighbors. They trusted their military. But what they didn't know was that one of Canada's most respected military officers was living a double life that would shock the nation. Russell Williams seemed to have it all. Born in 1963, he grew up in a middle-class family and showed early signs of ambition and discipline. He joined the Canadian Forces in 1987 and quickly rose through the ranks, becoming a highly skilled pilot. By 2009, Williams had achieved what many would consider the pinnacle of military success. He was appointed commander of Canadian Forces Base Trenton, the country's largest Air Force base and the hub of military air operations. He piloted aircraft for the royal family and Canadian Prime Minister. He was respected, admired, and trusted. Williams was married to Mary Elizabeth Harriman, a successful executive. To their neighbors in the small community of Tweed, Ontario, they appeared to be the perfect couple, hardworking, friendly, and unremarkable in the best possible way. But underneath this carefully constructed facade, Russell Williams was harboring dark compulsions that would soon spiral completely out of control. It started with break-ins. In September 2007, women in the Tweed area began reporting disturbing incidents. Someone was breaking into their homes and stealing intimate items, primarily lingerie and underwear. The violations were unsettling, but initially seemed like the work of a petty thief with a fetish. What police didn't know was that Williams wasn't just stealing these items. He was photographing himself wearing them in the victims' homes, in increasingly elaborate and disturbing poses. He meticulously documented everything, storing thousands of digital photographs on his computer. The break-ins escalated in frequency and boldness. Williams would sometimes return to the same homes multiple times. He knew their schedules, their routines, when they would be home and when they wouldn't. He was methodical, organized, and confident. Traits that had served him well in the military were now being used for sinister purposes. But stealing wasn't enough. His fantasies demanded more. And in September 2009, Russell Williams crossed a line from which there was no return. On September 17, 2009, Williams broke into a home in Tweed, but this time he waited. When the young woman who lived there returned home and fell asleep, Williams attacked. He bound her, blindfolded her, and essayed her for hours while photographing the entire ordeal. He would strike again just 2 weeks later. On September 30th, another young woman was attacked in her home in the same manner, bound, assaulted, and photographed. The level of planning was chilling. Williams brought zip ties, duct tape, and his camera. He seemed to feed off the terror of his victims. The community was gripped by fear. Police launched investigations, but they had no suspect. How could they? The perpetrator was the base commander, a man above suspicion, a decorated officer who had served his country for over 2 decades. For Williams, the assaults weren't enough to satisfy his escalating desires. His crimes were growing bolder, more violent, and soon they would turn deadly. On November 25, 2009, Corporal Marie-France Comeau, a 37-year-old military flight attendant stationed at CFB Trenton, was found dead in her home in nearby Brighton. She had been SA'd and murdered. The crime scene revealed a level of violence and depravity that shocked investigators. What made the crime even more disturbing was that Marie-France worked under Williams' command. She knew him, she trusted him, and he had used that position of authority to select his victim. Just over 2 months later, on January 28, 2010, Jessica Lloyd disappeared from her home in Belleville. The 27-year-old's house showed signs of forced entry, and her family reported her missing when she failed to show up for work. A massive search operation was launched. Jessica's body was found on February 8, 2010, in a wooded area. She had been held captive, SA'd, and murdered. Investigators found tire tracks near the site and evidence that would eventually lead them to Russell Williams. Police began analyzing tire tracks found near Jessica Lloyd's home and where her body was discovered. They matched a specific type of tire, and investigators started checking vehicles in the area. One of those vehicles belonged to Russell Williams. On February 7, 2010, Detective Sergeant Jim Smyth of the Ontario Provincial Police asked Williams to come in for what was described as a routine interview to eliminate him as a potential witness. Williams, confident in his ability to maintain control, agreed. What followed was one of the most compelling police interrogations ever recorded. For over 10 hours, Detective Smyth methodically dismantled Williams' defenses. He presented evidence piece by piece: the tire tracks, boot prints that matched Williams' boots, and finally, surveillance footage showing Williams' vehicle near Jessica Lloyd's home. Throughout the interrogation, Williams sat in silence for long stretches, his military composure gradually cracking. Smyth's technique was masterful, calm, patient, but relentless. He made it clear that they had the evidence, and that Williams' cooperation was the only way to maintain any dignity. Finally, Williams broke. He confessed to everything: the break-ins, the essays, and the murders of Mary France Comeau and Jessica Lloyd. The arrest of Colonel Russell Williams sent shockwaves throughout Canada. How could someone in such a position of trust and authority commit such horrific crimes? The military and the nation struggled to comprehend the betrayal. A search of Williams' home and computer revealed the true extent of his depravity. Investigators found over 500,000 images, meticulously organized in folders. Photos of him wearing stolen lingerie, photos of him during break-ins, and horrifying images documenting his assaults and murders. The level of documentation suggested a man who took pride in his crimes, who wanted to relive them over and over. In October 2010, Russell Williams pleaded guilty to all charges: 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of SA, and 82 break-ins. He was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years, 2 consecutive life sentences to be served concurrently. His military rank was stripped, his decorations removed, and in a symbolic ceremony, his uniform and military papers were burned. The Canadian forces wanted to erase any honor associated with his name. The case of Russell Williams raises disturbing questions about the nature of evil and how well we truly know the people around us. His colleagues, his wife, his neighbors. None of them saw the monster lurking beneath the surface. He compartmentalized his life with terrifying efficiency, maintaining his professional duties while secretly terrorizing his community. The victims and their families were left to pick up the pieces. 2 young women lost their lives to a man who should have been protecting them. Others were traumatized by assaults and violations that would haunt them forever. Russell Williams is currently serving his sentence at Port Cartier Institution in Quebec, where he will spend the rest of his life. He's been denied parole and will not be eligible to apply again until 2035 at the earliest. This case stands as a chilling reminder that evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it wears a uniform, a smile, and a mask of respectability, and it lives closer than we'd ever want to believe.